Not often you see this at Stamford Bridge. Henderson in. Nedum Onuoha. Oh, he's going on a slalom run! That's unbelievable! An extraordinary goal from Nedum Onuoha.
Loan spell was significant for me because it was my first time being away from Man City. You know, it's the club that I joined when I was 10 years of age, a club which I played for through all those age groups. Made my debut at 17. I played under pretty much every manager. And then all of a sudden, you know, there was talk that I would have to leave. But I think something that was key is like I'm really close friends with Fraser Campbell. And he'd been trying to lean on me for, I think, probably a year beforehand to go because I believe Steve Bruce was interested in trying to bring me along. I was like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. We'll see, we'll see. And then the opportunity came. And then from day one, like it was a new environment, but the people were amazing. And the sort of feel being in and around the city, the passion that they have for football, and to be, you know, playing at the Stadium of Light, you don't realize how big a club Sunderland is until you come and try and be a part of it. And you saw the crowds, the excitement, the quality of player as well. So yeah, that to jump to the end, looking back, that's without question one of the favourite years of my entire career. Just because this was my first time venturing out and the experience was amazing. Obviously, we had some low points within that, but the highs were amazing. Even the way it finished, because the goal when I first arrived was clear. Everyone said we're going to try and finish top 10 in the Premier League. And that feels like it's, you know, so many years ago now as a concept. But so we're going to try and finish top 10 in the Premier League. And we did it because we won away at West Ham in the last game of the season. So even to the very, very end, we still found a way to achieve what we needed to achieve. And then before you know it, you look back at that squad. You've got someone in Danny Welbeck who's still banging in goals now in the Premier League. He was a youngster at the time. You know, you got the likes of Jordan Henderson, who went on to be like Liverpool and England captain. And that's just to name but two players. So yeah, I look back at that year with so much like joy to be able to live somewhere new for the first time because I lived in Seaham right by the beach, seeing the sunrise every day from that position. And yeah, that feeling of going to the stadium when the team was doing well and the noise, like even this year to talk about, or to rather to listen to people talk about how noisy it is at the Stadium of Light. It's very easy to forget about how big that stadium is. And when the sound is up, it's without doubt one of the best places to play if you're one of those players. We now had a game against Chelsea, who were the Premier League champions, and I remember Steve Bruce saying that who was manager at the time, saying that like with football, if you ever want to do something, if you do it in London, more people will notice, more people will see. And he said that before the game. I'm not sure whether it was on the day or the day before, but he said it's really significant to do it there. And to be honest, I didn't really like take it on board or anything like that. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever you say. Even though, you know, this is a man that's coached 1,000 games. Like, yeah, sure, whatever. And this game itself being on a Super Sunday, it wasn't a Super Sunday because of us. It was a Super Sunday because of them. As I say, we weren't in the best of form. But then we arrived and they had a couple of players out, but it's still a very, very strong team, you know, featuring like Ashley Cole's, Branislav Ivanovic's, Czechs, Anelka's, Drogba's, and so on. And then for some reason, that goal, Jordan Henderson gets a cross in and it drops to me in the centre of the field, even though I was supposed to be playing right back. I couldn't tell you why I was there. I couldn't tell you why the game was that stretched. I couldn't tell you why after I got the ball under control, I just decided to take a step forward. But from the moment I did, it just felt like automatic. And to sort of put it into context again, I think being able to dribble is very much a skill in itself. And for people who, like myself, who every so often can fluke it, it's exhausting. And one of my biggest regrets is after that ball went into the corner, I was so tired, I didn't know how to celebrate. And the biggest relief was the fact that it was basically half time. And I didn't, it's weird. It was weird because I think I just shocked everyone. Like everyone in the stadium that was a Chelsea fan, everyone that was a Sunderland fan. I dread to think how many people that were watching at home were stunned as well. And I was like, oh, wow, I've just scored at Stamford Bridge in front, like against Peter Cech, and we're 1-0 up at half time away to Chelsea when, you know, nobody expects us to do anything. But then again, as soon as it's half time, you then switch into that mindset of, right, come on, we're only halfway there. We need to do more. We need to improve and so on and so forth. And then the second half was even better. Some of those moments, some of those goals, some of those memories, some of the performances from some of those players. And, you know, even Bolo, you know, a friend of mine, still doing the dancing in the corner alongside Asamoah Gyan. Like, that ends up being an iconic moment in the Premier League history of Sunderland. And to have been a part of that, like, I feel great pride. And because it's still one of the best goals to ever be scored on November 14th. The Premier League regularly like tweet it out every year. So it always brings some form of conversation. And I'll say as well, after that game was finished and I'd scored that goal, I think that's the most messages I've ever received on my phone after a game. So it's clear to see that people were watching and people were stunned, so stunned that they felt they needed to remind me that, that's not what you're supposed to do, but still we take it. Even though I was only there for a year, I think they could understand based on like how I played and how I spoke that, I was going to give everything I can for the team and for the football club. And I think that's part of it in itself, because I think if the fans believe that you are representing them in the best way possible, then at times it goes beyond results themselves and just that level of like connection, as I say, that can exist because you're doing what they would always love to do, but they're happy that you're doing it because you can do it better. So it was always good with the fans. Every time I see the fans, they'd always be coming up to you and they'd be talking, they'd be encouraging. You could see how much it meant to them. Like you feel that from minute one. You can feel the change in the city when the team's doing well. And, someone say, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Well, for me, it's a great thing because when you do have those like big moments, be spoken about forever. Like my involvement in a goal or a game, even to this day, it's still spoken about by people in Sunderland, by people who are Sunderland fans, and we're talking about 15 years ago now. So yeah, the fan base, it's intense, but I love it. Some of the players that were still there after I left, these are still my good friends to this day. So I always had Sunderland as a team who I would keep an eye on because I have so many people who were still living and breathing it. And to be completely honest with you as well, by the way, this is my first time really expressing this out in the open. So Sunderland came more to the prominence in my world after Sunderland Till I Die came out, but people were talking about it in a sort of catastrophic way. And I didn't want to remember the club that way, so I never watched it because I wanted to remember it from how I felt it. So people say, oh, this is happening, that's happening. And these were the years where, there was the threat of relegation, these great escapes and so on. And I was like, when I came, we were trying to finish in the top 10. And I wanted to believe that's how things still were. So I kind of turned a blind eye to any potential struggles that were coming. And the same when he dropped down to the championship and lower, it was like, it was sad to see because again, I remember when it felt so different, it looked so different, and we were trying to be progressive and looking up the league. So I've always kept an eye on it. And I think for them to be finally back in the Premier League now, you look at the size of the football club, you see the passion of the fans, and you see the quality that they can bring in. For me, it's always been a Premier League club. And I think the fact that they can be there now, I feel it's where they belong. But you'd probably find 30 other teams that could say the same thing. But based on my experiences, seeing the scale of the club, the passion of the fans, the passion of the people that work there, who've worked there for decades at times, it's an incredible football club. And yeah, that's why I've always had to keep an eye on it because it mattered so much to me in that year. And it's really, in my mind, like, it's one of the most significant years of my career because I'd learned lessons there which helped me for the rest of my career, for the next 10 years, being away from home, trying to figure out how to play a new style, connecting with new sets of fans and so on. Like without doubt, it made a big difference to me. So I'll never turn my back on it.